Welcome back, everyone. And I'll apologize if that wasn't enough time. We had a really good conversation in our breakout. And so with where we are now, we're on schedule. So yes, what I would like to do at this moment is we have Katie Frank with us to give us a presentation. She's from Zingerman's and she runs ZingTrain. And so, we're really happy to have her here to share with us how businesses can survive during this pandemic. And Katie, are you on here right now?
I am, yes.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Derek.
All right,
Hi, Lori.
well, yeah. Lori, the deputy director, he did more to plan this conference than I did. Thank you, Laurie. Katie, we'll hand it off to you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you all. Just one second. I want to get my notes right here for me. It's always a pleasure to talk with like-minded businesses and community leaders. Like Derek mentioned, I'm Katie Frank. I am a managing partner here at Zingerman's Training in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I've been in our organization for nearly 15 years, 6.5 as a retail manager at our bakehouse and as a trainer for 6.5 years, and then 2 years as an owner or managing partner. In mid-March, when COVID was ramping up and our business was screeching to a dramatic halt, a 95% decrease in sales, my business partner, Maggie Bayless, and I were trying to rescue our business. We had furloughed our team of 11 for at least 5 weeks to try to preserve cash while no in-person training was happening. And we were unsure of what was next. We were a 26-year-old, mature and stable business until we weren't. Conducting in-person training in Ann Arbor and traveling to work with clients across the country was not going to be happening for the foreseeable future. We needed to shift quickly into a scrappy startup mode and take all of our training virtual. If we were or are going to be able to survive the shifts in consumer behavior, we needed to definitely be in the growth mindset and start with yes. So that will be a theme throughout my 12 minutes that I'll have a chance to speak with you all. I'm going to put something in chat here for those that like to follow along with some kind of slides, that sort of thing. I'm going to be make sure I'm still focused on you all, but if you want to follow along, I put a document there in chat. So growth mindset. So if we were going to have any shot at saving our business, it was going to be imperative that we approached our work with the belief that we were going to make it. We wanted to have a growth mindset and think about what was possible. So in Carol Dweck's book called Mindset, it was a big inspiration. And as we consider what was next in our next chapter at ZingTrain, I thought of this book a lot. So just to recap quickly, a growth mindset is it suggests that your basic qualities are things that you can cultivate through your efforts. Everyone can change and grow through application and experience. A fixed mindset, believing that your qualities are carved into stone, and it creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over. And so I think about growth mindset really aligning with abundance mentality and thinking about how can I learn and grow. And then the fixed mindset, I think, is pretty fear-based and kind of constrictive. So that's how I'm approaching this. Starting with yes is something that kept coming to mind to me in March as I was reflecting on our reality and feeling really anxious. So visioning is a big part of our organization. And back in 2018, we started to work on our long-term vision out to 2030. So we're a community of 10 businesses here in Ann Arbor, and we were starting to work on that next vision. As in preparation for that, one of our staff partners wrote a vision, and there was a passage that kept coming up for me in 2018. It says, we deliberately practice starting at yes. Until principles tell us otherwise, start at yes. Until thoroughly investigated, start at yes. Until numbers tell us otherwise, start at yes. When your mind screams no, start at yes. If it makes us uncomfortable, especially start at yes. Something wonderful may be about to happen. We believe if we start at yes, our creative canvas is blank and lends to more creative, open-minded conversations. We believe by saying yes, our creativeness and innovation levels will increase. And once momentum begins, it's easier to keep momentum than gain momentum. Yes becomes a tool to practice being open to ideas. So thanks to Betty's inspiration, starting at yes has continued to guide our thoughts about what's possible and what our preferred future looks like. When our team came back together in late April, one of the first things we did was draft an 8-week vision. Since we had, thankfully, the PPP loan had covered our labor costs for 8 weeks. The vision did what we wanted it to do. It aligned our hearts and minds about what we could get done in this short time frame when everything felt completely out of control. It was hugely gratifying to read the vision towards the end of the 8-week window to see that we had accomplished much of what was in there. So now it's time. Recently, we went through the process and drafted our year-long vision since we had thankfully gotten to retain the 8 of our staff members. And we redrafted a vision at the end of July. So 2 tools to help survive and thrive during this uncertain time. I would say visioning and customer feedback. And visioning is a topic that is near and dear to our hearts. So the way that we define vision, it's a clear picture of what success looks like at a particular point in time. And it's described with enough richness of detail that we know whether or not we've gotten there. It's written in story form. It basically lets us know where we're headed. And you know, I'm honored to be here to speak with you all, but things are just as uncertain in our business as they are in many businesses out in the world. So we still aren't guaranteed that things are going to be all rosy, but the vision does say, this is where we're going. And here's some characteristics of an effective vision. So it needs to be inspiring to you personally, to anyone that you want to get on board with the vision. A lot of jobs can be mundane and repetitive, but we want to make sure that everyone on our team is aligned on that big picture of how their job impacts this overall picture of where we're going. It needs to be strategically sound. It needs to be grounded in some level of reality or unless it's a fantasy. One aspect that our team brainstormed for our 8-week vision that we drafted back in April was that everyone was back to full pay and 100% work at the end of that 8-week time. And that just wasn't realistic. We knew we could pay people a certain amount, but it likely, well, for the 8 weeks, we were able to pay everyone at 100% pay because of the PPP loan. But going forward in our next vision, you know, having everyone at full pay just wasn't realistic given our level of sales, which is now about 30% of pre-COVID amounts. So we adjusted that back and said that we are able to pay people at 80% as opposed to 100%. And sure, it would be great to get back up to that full level of pay, but it wasn't strategically sound to keep that aspect in there. We want to make sure it's documented. So if it's written down, we can come back to it and remind ourselves what we wrote and also hold ourselves accountable. And then lastly, we want to communicate that vision. If people know where we want to go, it's a lot more likely to happen. And there's other people, I mean, you all are talking a lot about community over the last day and a half. And so it's really thinking about how can other people within our own community help us get there. And having it written down is one big step to kind of get that word out and get the motion going universally. Visions are we use them for all kinds of things, but especially in this time, thinking about how can we align ourselves with where we're headed. We use them for price changes, for new product launches. We have a new training product that we're getting into, and we've drafted a vision for what that looks like. It just helps get everyone on the same page. So vision does help get everybody on the same page. You know, some challenges is people are scared to put their thoughts down on paper. And so when we think about visioning, it is a skill that you can practice and get better at. And so at the end, I'll share some resources. If you want to explore more on visioning, we've got plenty of resources on our website that are free that you can try out. The second tool that I want to share is about customer feedback. So thinking about back on that growth mindset in Carol Dweck's book, she says, when assessing performance and abilities, if you're oriented towards learning the growth mindset, you need accurate information about your current abilities in order to learn effectively. However, if everything is good news or bad news about your precious traits, the fixed mindset, distortion almost inevitably enters the picture. People with a fixed mindset don't admit and correct their deficiencies. So, and some things that we utilize in our world around customer service measurement, my thinking is if we don't get what our customers are after, they're going to go somewhere else. And so how can we be open to how can we meet our customers' needs, even if it's way outside the box? So we've got a lot of training content. So our challenge was, how can we get our training content in a format that can reach our customers in the way that they need right now? So right now we're doing a lot of virtual training, and we have something we call the Code Red form, which captures customer complaints and also suggestions. Code Green captures compliments. It lets our team know what's going well. And then another way that we measure is Net Promoter Score, which is in the form of a survey. And you've seen this question before. Based on your most recent experience with us, how likely are you to recommend ZingTrain to a friend or colleague on a scale of 0 to 10? And then the really important follow-up question, what could we have done to improve your experience? So they might rate high, but also give you critical feedback about what we could do to improve. So by asking your customers for their feedback, you're asserting that you want to continue to learn and grow, trusting you to do something with the feedback, of course. So we can track our Net Promoter Score over time and take both the quantifiable and qualitative data from the survey to make improvements. All right, so some additional resources. Excuse me. We've got a ton of resources on our website, so zingtrain.com. We've got webinars and articles that are all free on a variety of topics, namely service and visioning, like I mentioned. I'm happy to send you Code Red and Code Green forms and also articles on why we like using the Net Promoter Score. Just email zingtrain@zingermans.com. And also we are offering a 25% discount on all of our books and pamphlets right now. So Ari, our co-founder, is a copious writer, and so that's some resources too that might provide some inspiration. All right, I want to respect the time and want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your conference. I want to, if Della can put into the chat, I've got a couple of reflection questions that I'd love to have you answer as you get into breakout rooms. So what are you holding on to that might be getting in the way of new opportunities? And then what is one idea you are hungry to try out? But before we go there, I don't know if there's any questions.
I have one.
Okay.
DW Farrell from Localite. Hi. So I've been tracking with Zingerman's for 10 years. Everything that was laid down as a foundation to me is just incredible. And yet I think maybe there's some people here that don't know about the business structure and partner structure. Could you give a kind of a quick overview of that so everybody's
Sure.
on the same page?
Absolutely. We're a community of 10 businesses in the Ann Arbor, Michigan area. We're about 45 minutes west of Detroit. Ari and Paul, our co-founders, started our delicatessen 38 years ago, and we had that flagship business for 10 years, and then they wanted a way to grow without franchising, and they wanted a way to provide more opportunity for people within the organization and to also attract others from outside the organization. And so they came up with an idea to have managing partners or owner operators of new business ideas that would kind of come from within the organization. And then we would have these satellite businesses that would all be here in the Ann Arbor area. And so now we have a group of 10 businesses, of which ZingTrain is a part. Deli, we've got 2 full service restaurants. We have an event space. Our mail order business is booming right now. And so let's see, coffee roaster, creamery, candy manufactory, bakehouse. And so all here in the Ann Arbor area. Ari and Paul are part owners of all the businesses, and then we buy and sell from one another. So in a sense of that community, we are leaning on one another heavily right now.
Can I ask a question, or do
Sure.
we have? Great. Hi, Katie. I just
Ruben.
wanted to say I once upon a time worked at Zingerman's Deli, so it's great
Oh,
to
awesome.
see you in Ann Arbor. And I also was wondering, so as you bring people on as partners, because they might not have that business background, how are you supporting them, and like what is the balance between being that business piece where they obviously have all of that training, but then their creativity comes in, and I think that's a great tool for bringing in marginalized founders.
Right. I would say it's a mix. I mean, we all bring our own gifts to the table. I would say, depending on where the gaps are, you know, as folks are going through what we call our path to partnership process, some of the areas where they might be weak are things that they might work on while they're in the path to partnership, or we can align resources for them. We've got a leadership development program that all partners are asked to, our prospective partners are asked to participate in. And then it's a lot of conversation, the informal leadership coaching that might take place between partners. You know, Ari and Paul are, you know, one of their strengths is that they let us kind of do our thing. And then, you know, if they need to step in, they will. But I would say, you know, it's kind of like a case-by-case basis because we all have our own kind of strengths. So there's not really a one-size-fits-all, but that a lot gets assessed in our path to partnership process, which is about 1.5 to 2 year process.
Katie, this is Della. Just one more question. Coming out of the chat, there was, you mentioned a few different books, I believe, in the process of speaking. Would you mind just highlighting what those books were, and I'll look them up and get them into the chat. I already got the Carol Dweck book. So if folks are interested in that one, there's a link to its Goodreads in the chat. What were the others?
Well, Carol Dweck was the main one.
Okay.
And then the passage that I read was from one of our staff partners for our vision, our organization-wide vision. I'm happy to put that, if folks are interested in that quote, I'm happy to put that into the chat. And then I can also put the discount code Community 2020 for any of our books and pamphlets that are on sale on our website. So awesome. I'm happy to drop that in chat.
All right, if you would do that, please. And for everybody listening, we'll also make sure that this information is captured and available to you afterward. Go ahead.
Katie, would you mind restating the questions for the breakouts?
Sure, absolutely. So what are you holding on to that's getting in the way of new opportunities? And what is one idea you are hungry to try out?
Okay, thanks, Katie. We are at, let's see, 150. And so we, let's see, we have until 2:05. And I think, you know, we'll do the breakout for 10 or 12 minutes. So is there any other questions or comments real quick while we have Katie? Real quick.
I'll do a follow-up. So with ZingTrain, I understand, and please correct this if it's not right, but one is to the customer service element, training for customer service, listening to customers, all of that. But also, is it to replicate the unique ownership structure that avoids a franchise model?
I would say, well, we want to provide a great experience to anyone we come into contact with. That's part of our mission. We think there's lots of different growth structures. We chose one that's worked well for us. You know, Ari and Paul could have franchised and made a lot of money. They chose to stay local and be rooted in the Ann Arbor community, which is still remains important for us. And in our 2032 vision, it still has us only in the Ann Arbor area, kind of proper, not really going out much further. So we're still working on living out our mission every day, and still trying to be an active part of our community. And, you know, we have talked about, should we close down, you know, should we close? And Ari, even to our staff yesterday in a kind of town hall meeting, said that, you know, our community looks to us as a beacon of strength and, you know, to help provide inspiration and support, especially during this uncertain time. So we don't take our position in the community lightly, and do feel like we're able to provide some support and strength to those around us.
Thank you, Katie. We really appreciate it. And we will definitely be in touch. I also want to apologize. We had to pull a little bit of an audible. We had a technical issue. And so I know we went a little bit over time, but I really appreciate for you staying on and answering questions. So with what Katie has lined out with her questions, they're in the chat, and we will go, let's see, Darren, are you with us? Is there any, okay.
Up now, 12 minutes and we'll call you back.
Okay,